One of the most complex and often misunderstood moments in relationships with avoidant individuals is not when they leave, it's when they realize the impact of their leaving. Because at the moment of withdrawal, many avoidant people are not fully connected to the emotional consequences of their actions. Their nervous system is focused on one thing: reducing pressure, creating distance, restoring a sense of control. In that state, the relationship can feel overwhelming. The expectations feel too heavy. The emotional closeness feels like something that needs to be escaped. So they leave, or disconnect, or slowly fade out. And to the person who is left behind, it can feel like everything collapsed without warning. But what happens after distance is created is often very different from what people expect. Once the intensity of the relationship is gone, the nervous system begins to calm down. The pressure disappears. There are no more difficult conversations, no emotional demands, no need to confront vulnerability. And in that space, something begins to shift. Without the constant activation of fear, the avoidant person may begin to reconnect with emotions that were previously suppressed. Memories start to return. Not the overwhelming parts, but the moments of connection, the warmth, the familiarity, the safety they once felt before the relationship became emotionally intense. This is when awareness can begin to surface. But awareness does not always arrive clearly. It often comes in fragments. A thought, a memory, a feeling of absence, a quiet realization that something meaningful was lost. And for some avoidant individuals, this is the first time they begin to feel the weight of what happened. But even at this stage, the experience is not simple. Because alongside that awareness, another emotion often appears: shame. At the core of many avoidant patterns is a deep, often unconscious belief of being emotionally inadequate. Not good at relationships, not capable of meeting expectations, not safe to fully open. So when the realization comes that they may have hurt someone deeply, it doesn't just create sadness. It can activate shame. And shame is not an easy emotion to sit with. Shame does not say, "I made a mistake." It says, "Something is wrong with me." Because of this, instead of fully processing the impact of their actions, some avoidant individuals may unconsciously try to escape that feeling. They may minimize what happened. They may rationalize their behavior. They may tell themselves the relationship wasn't right, or that things wouldn't have worked anyway. This is not necessarily manipulation. It is often a defense mechanism, a way to avoid facing painful internal emotions. But not all avoidant individuals respond in the same way. Some begin to reflect, slowly, quietly. They start asking themselves questions. Why did I pull away? Why did closeness feel overwhelming? Why do I repeat this pattern? Why do I lose people when things become emotionally real? This kind of self-reflection does not happen instantly. And it does not happen for everyone. It requires a level of emotional readiness, a willingness to look inward instead of outward. For those who reach this stage, the realization can be deeply uncomfortable. Because they begin to see the pattern, not just in one relationship, but across multiple connections. A cycle of closeness followed by distance, connection followed by withdrawal, interest followed by detachment. And with that awareness, another realization may appear. The problem was not only the relationship, it was the pattern. This is a critical turning point, because once someone sees the pattern, they can no longer fully deny it. But seeing the pattern is not the same as changing it. Change requires something more. It requires emotional responsibility. It requires sitting with discomfort instead of escaping it. It requires learning how to stay present in moments that previously triggered withdrawal. And this is where many avoidant individuals struggle. Because their entire coping system was built around avoiding emotional intensity. So even when they understand what happened, acting differently can feel extremely difficult. This is why realization does not always lead to repair. Someone can understand that they hurt you. They can even feel regret. but still not have the capacity to do the work required to show up differently. And this is one of the most painful truths for the person who was hurt, because it means that awareness alone is not enough. Growth requires action, consistent, intentional effort. Without that, the pattern remains. Sometimes, when avoidant individuals reach a level of awareness, they may feel the urge to reconnect. They may reach out. They may apologize. They may express that they have been thinking about the relationship. But even in these moments, it is important to understand the difference between emotion and transformation. Feeling regret is not the same as having changed. Missing someone is not the same as being able to build a healthy relationship. Real change shows up in behavior, in consistency, in emotional availability, in the ability to stay present during difficult conversations. Without those elements, the dynamic often repeats. For the person who was hurt, this creates a difficult emotional situation, because when someone returns with awareness or regret, it can reopen hope. Hope that things might be different. Hope that the relationship can be repaired. But hope without evidence can lead back into the same cycle. This is why, when an avoidant realizes they hurt you, the most important question is not what they feel. It is what they are willing to do. Are they taking responsibility for their behavior? Are they willing to examine their patterns? Are they actively working on changing how they relate? Or are they simply responding to feelings of loss, loneliness, or nostalgia? Because without internal work, the nervous system patterns that led to the original hurt are still present, and those patterns will eventually resurface. It is also important to understand that some avoidant individuals may never fully reach this level of awareness, not because they are incapable, but because self-reflection requires facing uncomfortable truths. And for someone who has spent a lifetime avoiding emotional discomfort, that process can feel overwhelming. So instead of looking inward, they continue moving forward. New relationships, new distractions, new environments, but the pattern often follows, until it is consciously addressed. For the person who experienced the heartbreak, there is often a desire for acknowledgement. For the other person to understand the depth of the pain they caused, for them to recognize what was lost. And this desire is completely valid. But healing cannot depend on someone else's realization. Because even if they understand, it does not undo the experience. And even if they regret it, it does not guarantee change. This is why healing ultimately becomes an internal process, not about waiting for them to realize, but about allowing yourself to move forward regardless of whether they do, because your healing is not dependent on their awareness. It is dependent on your ability to reconnect with yourself, to process what happened, to rebuild your sense of safety, to choose relationships that align with your emotional needs. When an avoidant realizes they hurt you, it may come with mixed emotions: regret, confusion, shame, even a desire to reconnect. But what matters most is not the moment of realization, it is what follows it. Because realization without change keeps the past repeating itself. But awareness combined with action has the potential to create something different. And the most important thing to remember is this: someone recognizing your value after losing you does not mean you have to return. Because your worth is not defined by when someone else finally sees it. It is defined by how you choose to value yourself moving forward.